Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 768. 768 Wednesday, May the 1st. May the 1st, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course it is Wednesday and that is the day that I'll be taking out the trash and having some chicken. I think I'll go with the chicken fettuccine alfredo this evening with a couple of sourdough rolls and some Mountain Dew. Nectar of the gods. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get to it. And at the end of this video, there will be a quiz. Okay, let's get started by talking about what's going on in Venezuela. Who knows? All hell is breaking loose in Venezuela as I come to you this evening. 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So all hell is breaking loose. Apparently this is an operation underway called Operation Libertad. Libertad, L-I-B-E-R-T-A-D. This is being promoted by and propagated by the interim president, Juan Guaido, G-U-A-I-D-O. Many of you are familiar with him. He came with his wife to visit Trump at the White House not too long ago. Of course, the U.S. is backing Guaido against Maduro. And so basically what's going on, to give you just the kind of the short on it, is this has been building for quite some time. Many countries in the world, including the U.S., have already recognized Guaido as the sort of interim president. It's just that Maduro is refusing to leave. He's, of course, being backed by the Russians and the Chinese, who are kind of telling him to stay put, and, of course, Cuba. So this push and shove has been going back and forth for a long time. I'm absolutely certain that the CIA is involved there. Probably some military intelligence is involved there. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, sort of underneath the main, what we see on TV and what we hear about, what we read about. There's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes, sort of in the dark world, the dark ops, black ops, the underworld, whatever you want to call it. This stuff that's going on, the very clandestine type stuff has been going on. So obviously they had reached a point where they thought, okay, it's go time. We have everything in place. We think we can do this. They probably had to turn some military leaders. They probably had to turn some powerful people in the country, some money people. So there's probably been a lot of things going on behind the scenes that have been leading up to this. And I guess they got the go signal probably yesterday to make this thing happen. And so it's going to play itself out. In the end, I think Maduro will have to go. I think this will probably end up being a victory. I'm glad that we haven't sent any U.S. troops in there. You know, I generally don't like meddling in foreign affairs. I'm not a big fan of that sort of thing. It never has worked out for us, especially in South America. But if it's done with the right intentions and it's done correctly, you know, I look at it and I say I don't like it, but I look at the alternative and I say I don't like that much either. In fact, I like that less. Keeping Maduro around is I like less than getting him out of there. I prefer a people's revolution where the people rise up, and there are a lot of people who are opposed to Maduro and are supporting the interim president there that we support, but they're disarmed. And this is the problem when you allow yourself to be disarmed. Then you have to have a foreign power come in and help you because you can't do it on your own because you're fighting a government that is armed. So I think that this will probably succeed. I don't think it's going to be pretty. In fact, it's probably going to be very ugly. But I hope on the other side of this, there's a better future for Venezuela. And it really helps us too. What would really help us more than anything is to see like a domino effect happen in South America to end all of these communist and socialist regimes and see a more of a Western-style capitalist type of thing take place in South America. It would hopefully keep a lot of these people from wanting to come here. They would stay there because they might actually have successful governments, good economies, and no reason to leave. So I think that this is probably Trump's thinking here, because I don't think he's much of a guy who likes to intervene in things like this or meddle in things like this either. But I think he's looking at the long-term best interest of the United States. And in this particular case, despite the fact that I am a non-interventionist for the most part, despite that, I think that this is probably the right thing to do as long as we do it the right way and for the right reasons. And I do hope we get the proper outcome. If so, it will be a big win, not just for Trump and us, the United States, But it will be a big win for those people in those South American countries who've been enslaved under socialism, communism for so long. And the problem is that so many times corrupt capitalists get into the mix, and they do no better than the socialist dictators do. They just rape, pillage, and plunder these countries for their own personal benefit, and that's when I have a problem. So hopefully Trump's doing it the right way for the right reasons, and if so, I'll be supportive of it. That's what's going on in Venezuela. We'll see how it turns out. Well, it looks like Trump and the two losers, Chuck the Cuck and Madam Botox, have reached a deal for a $2 trillion infrastructure bill. They, of course, have not figured out yet how to pay for it. They're supposed to meet again in 3 weeks and talk about that. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, an infrastructure project is fantastic, but I can tell you right now that they'll be miles apart on how to pay for it and what it should look like. I don't know if that's actually going to be a resolution to this, because I think that Trump is going to want to use this partnership of public-private funds. I think he's going to, maybe he'll be okay with the federal increase in the gas tax, which is always a little tricky, because people feel a gas tax. That's something people know every day what the price of gas is. So when you lay a federal gas tax on people, they better feel they're getting something out of it. And most of the time when we get a federal gas tax, we don't actually see the benefits of it. So Trump better be very, very careful with how they handle an increase in the federal tax on gasoline, because at the same time, the states, many, many states, including here where I live in Ohio, they're talking about anywhere from 11 to as much as 50-cent tax on gas. And that's just the state. You add the federal tax on top of that, we could end up paying around over $3 a gallon. And when people start paying $3 a gallon, if you're the president, you're going to start taking some heat. And you don't want to be having people paying $3 or more than $3 a gallon at the time when you're running for re-election. That's not good. Now, maybe Trump believes because we're exporting so much gasoline, we have so much fuel, we have so much oil, we have so much of this and that maybe he can force, market forces will keep prices down below 3. But it's a very, very risky proposition, whenever you're a Republican talking about tax cuts, especially if you're Trump. So it's very tricky. I think that the Democrats are going to probably say, well, we want you to repeal the tax cuts that you passed, and only if you repeal the tax cuts are we going to go along with the deal. And I think that that's where this deal is going to probably fall apart, because Nancy and Chuck are not just going to roll in and sign on to Trump's plan. They're going to have a beef with it. They're going to want and the fight's going to happen over how we're going to pay for it. And I think that they're going to want Trump to rescind his tax cuts. He's not going to do that. And if he says, well, let's go with federal gas taxes, then they're going to use that against him in the election to say that he raised your taxes on fuel instead of cutting or instead of taxing the rich. He's going to tax you, the middle class, so as to pay for gas and blah, 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 blah. And you can see where all that goes. It's a very tricky political maneuver to do, but if anybody can pull it off, Trump can. So we'll see where that goes, but I would not be the least bit surprised to see this actually not pass or not get done, simply because I don't know that they can come to terms on it politically. I think it's very tough on both sides. They both would take a lot of heat on both sides if they give an inch, and they're both going to have to give. And I think it's just very tough politically to do. We'll see what happens. If I were a betting man, I would probably bet 40-60 that it will pass. I think it's maybe 40% likely that they'll get a plan that will actually pass both houses and Trump will sign. I'd say it's probably 60% that they will not get a deal that both houses can pass and that Trump will sign. So that's kind of where I see it. Well, it looks like Jerry Nadler, who really, the only thing Jerry Nadler needs to truly be in character, for me anyway, is one of them big red rubber noses that you can maybe squeeze and it goes, something like that. So Jerry Nadler needs a big red rubber nose, and then it would all make sense. So Jerry Nadler, of course, is now saying that he will fine Trump officials $20,000 a day and throw them in jail if they refuse his subpoenas. Okay, so, right now Trump is fighting Nadler and the Democrats very hard. They want to subpoena his bank records from Deutsche Bank and from another bank. Trump's already filed a lawsuit trying to force these banks to keep these banks from being able to release this information to Nadler. Trump is fighting them on every front. He's not cooperating at all with anything Nadler wants to do. We see them going after Barr. Now Barr is battling with Nadler. He's not on board with what Nadler wants to do. And so what is this all about? Why is Nadler picking this fight? He knows Trump's not just going to sit by and cooperate and give up all these documents and allow his banking records to be looked at and all these other things. He knows that Attorney General Barr is not just going to roll over and play for him. He knows all this stuff. Nadler knows that Pelosi's probably not going to give him the permission to, call in the sergeant of arms and start arresting people or dropping $20,000 a day fines on people, because if they did that, the Republicans could do the exact same thing. They control the committees in the Senate. Lindsey Graham will say, okay, great, I'm going to have some hearings. I'm going to call Barack Obama. I want Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton right here in my hearings. And then, of course, they're not going to show up. And he's, okay, I'm going to give you a subpoena. And if you don't show up for the subpoena, I'm going to throw you in jail. I'll call the sergeant of arms to throw you in jail. And I'm going to fine you $20,000 a day. You see, Lindsey Graham could do the exact same thing that Nadler's doing in any other Republican committee head. Or the Republicans could do it once they win the House back. They could play the same game. Pelosi knows this, so do a lot of other Democrats. A lot of people are going to tell Jerry Nadler to back down. But what's this all about? This is not about the fact that it's not what it looks like. Let me tell you what it is. I've seen this many, many times. I know what this is. Okay, so Uncle Bob the Executioner was not able to provide what the Democrats needed to get enough public support to go through with impeachment hearings or an impeachment, in the Senate. So what they're going to do and what Nadler's plan is, right along with Waters and right along with Cummings and all the rest of the Democrats, is to request all these subpoenas, or give Trump all these subpoenas and request all this information and all this documentation from him, knowing good and well he is going to resist and he is going to fight them. And then what they can say then is, oh, so Trump is fighting us on all this stuff. He is obstructing Congress. He's obstructing Congress from being able to do their oversight, and therefore we think that's impeachable. So they couldn't get Mueller to give them what they needed for impeachment, so they're going to do this, try to do impeachment based on Trump obstructing Congress. And here's the other part of this. They're not actually going to call it impeachment. They're going to go ahead and have hearings that will look just like impeachment. They just won't call it impeachment. That's exactly what they're going to do. That's the plan. Because the plan is simply to destroy and beat up on Trump and beat him down enough to where they can drive his poll numbers down low enough to where they believe that they can actually get impeachment hearings and they'll not get there. Or to damage him enough to hurt him with independents and maybe someone in his base, and at the same time to activate their base. So this is all about election 2020 strategy. That's all this is. It's a smokescreen for their 2020 election strategy. Beat up on Trump any way that you can, every way that you can, and never, ever, ever relent. Every single day, one thing after another, to never, ever stop. And that's all this is. This is just an extension of what's been already going on and will continue to go on. And it's going to continue until someone throws the kibosh on it. And that could very well be William Barr, by actually holding the perpetrators accountable, which would throw the Democrats back on their heels and force them into a total defensive position, and they would have to back off, especially when it's revealed that the entire thing was a coup plot. That's going to change the dynamics tremendously, and this will all go away. Or it could be that that this thing drags on and up until 2020, and then the voters show their displeasure with what Nadler and his friends are doing by handing them an ass kicking in the 2020 election. So this could go a bunch of different ways, but it's not going to result in Trump being impeached. I think it's only going to hurt the Democrats, and I honestly believe that in 3 to 4 months, Barr is probably going to drop enough ammo on these people, enough munitions on these people that it will force them to back down and back away. Trump's going to fight these people to the last, nth degree. He's not going to provide anything. He's going to make it as hard as possible for Nadler and all these people on the Democrat side to do anything. He's going to fight them as hard as they've ever been fought before. Barr is not going to submit to these people. Many of these Republicans who have the financial means necessary legally to fight these hearings will do so. Those who don't have the means financially probably will have to go and appear, or answer these subpoenas or turn over documents or whatever. But those who can fight will fight. And Trump and Barr certainly can and will fight. They have the money and they have the power to fight, and they will. Other people will resist this and fight as well. So it's really just a bunch of nothing. But it's going to make a lot of noise. It's going to create a lot of distraction, and it's just going to continue to be the Democrats' feed into the Democrat plan, which is just to create chaos and to try to destroy Trump, beat him down enough to where they feel that they have a political advantage. And I don't think they'll ever be able to feel like they have enough numbers to go for impeachment. But that won't stop them from having all these hearings, which really are impeachment hearings. We're just not going to call them that. But they will use the fact that, so the plan is force by subpoena Trump to turn over all sorts of documents and all sorts of things, knowing good and well he won't. Then they can use the fact that he won't to go for obstruction of Congress charges, which will lead them to hearings, which will be impeachment hearings, which won't be called impeachment hearings, which they will use just to stir the pot some more. And they're going to continue doing this until someone goes on hardcore offense and knocks them back on their heels and forces them to, bug out. And that's on William Barr right now. Fortunately, he's under attack too. So it's Trump's got a lot of help. So if you're a betting man, who do you want to bet your money on? The president and the attorney general, or Jerry Nadler? That's where the bet is. Is your money on the power of the president and the attorney general against a head of a committee in Congress? I think if you're a betting man, you put your money on the president and the attorney general. Yep, that's what I would do. So it's not going to amount to anything, just going to be more of the same. That's why Barr needs to drop the hammer soon. If Barr wants to get these people off his back, if they want to get them off Trump's back, if they want to get them off of our back, the best way to do it, start dropping some indictments on some high-powered Democrats and watch these people back down. That's exactly what Nadler will do. It's exactly what he'll do. When he realizes that he's being outpowered. It's the power play, and he's being outpowered. So we'll keep our eye on it, but, it's just more nonsense from Jerry Nadler, who's basically a clown. And, like I said, just to put a big rubber nose on this guy, and you would be hitting it right on the head. He's like the guy driving the clown car. Okay, so someone leaked a letter written by Uncle Bob the Executioner to Attorney General Barr to the Washington Post. Uncle Bob the Executioner wrote the letter 3 days after Barr released his summary of the Mueller report. In the letter, Mueller says that Barr did not fully capture the context, nature, and substance of Mueller's report. Of course, it's no coincidence that the letter is leaked a week before Barr is scheduled to testify before Congress. Okay, so let's see what we can make of this. Let's see. Barr says Mueller did not fully capture the context. No, I actually agree with Uncle Bob the Executioner here. I agree that Barr didn't quite capture the full context, nature, and substance in the Mueller report. I agree with that. Because if you look at the Mueller report, essentially it debunks the dossier. It sure does. And if I was Barr, I would have come out and said, well, we got the Mueller report in, and he debunks the dossier. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. So, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, debunks the dossier. But Uncle Bob's got a lot of other problems. And apparently this was followed by a phone call. The letter was followed by a phone call. So maybe we're told that Barr and Uncle Bob the Executioner are friends and their wives attend Bible study together. But this doesn't sound like it's a very friendly exchange between Barr and Uncle Bob. Now, Uncle Bob would be well suited to keep his mouth shut. Because he's and I'm sure Barr realizes at this point, if he doesn't, he eventually will, that Uncle Bob, the Executioner, was part of the coup plot. He just picked up the baton. They fired Comey. They got rid of Comey, and Uncle Bob just came in and picked up where Comey left off to carry out the coup. That's really all it is. So if I were Uncle Bob, I'd be lawyering up and shutting up is what I would do, because he doesn't know where this thing could go, and Uncle Bob shouldn't be, again, a lot of people attacking Barr. I mean, I'd be careful about attacking Barr right now. He's got the power to take a lot of people down. He could do exactly to Uncle Bob what Uncle Bob did to Manafort and Gates and all these other guys. So if I was Uncle Bob, I'd be very, very careful about pushing too hard on Barr. Okay, let's see. Bill Clinton is going to launch a podcast about his presidency, and it's going to be titled, "Why Am I Telling You This?" Oh man, you got to be kidding me. This guy. No one really wants to hear from Bill Clinton. I think the Me Too movement pretty well took care of him. But for some reason, this guy, just like his crooked wife, think they're still relevant. They're dying to be relevant. They can't stand the fact that they're not relevant anymore. And that's what this is all about. Just another way for the Clintons to promote themselves and to continue their grifting. So what can we expect in the Bill Clinton podcast? So I have some ideas of what we can maybe expect from the Slick Willie podcast. So I'm thinking maybe they're going to give some tips on grifting. Maybe we can get some tips on grifting. That would be probably helpful. Maybe the Rotten Reverend can sit in with him some night and tell us how she turned $6,000 into $100,000 in the cattle futures market. That would be some good information to get from that podcast, don't you think? How about if Slick Willie reflects on, in his podcast, on how many 13-year-old girls he shagged on Epstein's Island? That would be an interesting podcast, don't you think? How about if Slick Willie describes how to destroy American jobs with globalist free trade policies? Maybe that would be a good podcast, because it is about why am I telling you this? Why don't you tell us all about how you sold out the working middle class, blue collar America, Slick? Maybe Slick Willie could do a podcast where he talks about how Cuban cigars can enhance lovemaking with young interns. I'm sure that would draw a lot of viewers, don't you think? How about Slick Willie doing a podcast on how to beat a rape charge? He could give us the insider's tip. Or maybe he could give us some insight on conjugal visits for spouses, something he may want to be looking into. Maybe he could talk about how to sell out America to China and make millions doing it through your private foundation. Maybe he could talk about buddying up to the Russians, the Russian oligarchs, and how that can enhance your financial portfolio. Plenty of topics I'll be looking forward to hearing from Slick Willie on. Now, let's talk a little bit about the recent Jeff Carlson article on the Epoch Times, which talks a lot about Biden, the Obama administration, and Ukraine. Again, with Carlson, very long article, a lot of information in there. I highly recommend you read it. It's certainly worth looking into, but essentially one of the things I think that's key in here, and there's a lot of things in here, but one of the things that really perked my ears up is something I think we knew, but it just kind of reiterated this in my mind, is that Confusion GPS and Nellie Orr were involved in the release of the Black Ledger, and that is what got Paul Manafort fired. And Chalupa was acting as the intermediary between Nellie Orr, Confusion GPS, and the Ukrainian corrupt officials. So there's a huge story there. Because, again, if you're looking into Confusion GPS, as William Barr is, you need to know how Nellie and Glenn Simpson were coordinating with this the two crooked guys over in Ukraine, one of whom has already been convicted, the other is about to be convicted of meddling in our election, and of course how that related to directly to Manafort getting fired. And this is all being related directly to the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC as well. This was a sort of an amalgamation of a group of criminals here, again, including Ukrainian politicians, corrupt officials, Hillary Clinton, her campaign, the DNC, Fusion GPS, Michael Isikoff, the FBI. It's a cauldron of witches or something, that put all this together. So while William Barr is looking into this, he might want to take a look at Jeff Carlson's article and also the article written by Cheryl Atkinson about a year ago. You read those two articles, you'll just about have, and John Solomon's written some good articles as well. Just about everything Solomon talks about, though, is captured in Jeff Carlson's work as well. So it's all right there, man. And it's easy to see. It's really easy to see, and I'm sure that Barr will find his way there eventually if he's not there already. We have Anthony Weiner is looking for a book deal. Anthony Weiner looking for a book deal. Good luck. Good luck with that. And of course, we talked yesterday about Ben Rhodes. I guess many of you by now have seen the video. You can tell he was sweating bullets, didn't like the questions he was being asked. Ben Rhodes, of course, lied about in that interview about what he and Obama knew and about the investigation, the Trump investigation, which is essentially the coup, and of course the dossier. So, maybe Rhodes can make the argument that he didn't know any of this stuff, but here's a question for you. How would Ben Rhodes know what Obama knew? He's sitting there defending Obama. He's not saying, I didn't know. If you're being interviewed by somebody, a detective, an investigator, or anybody, and they're asking you about what you knew about something, you can tell them what you knew or didn't know, but how can you possibly say what someone else knew or didn't know? Makes me kind of suspicious. Does it make you suspicious as to why Ben Rhodes feels that he can speak for... Ben Rhodes is assuming to himself that he had to know everything Obama knew? Maybe he did. But that's very suspicious that Rhodes will be speaking for Obama, and it makes me suspicious, again, especially when we know that Obama himself paid nearly $1 million to Confusion GPS during 2016 and 2017. We know that Lisa Page texted to Peter's been stroking us, the White House wants to know everything we're doing. And then we had another text just 5 days after they opened Operation Crossfire Hurricane, where Lisa Page texted Strzok and said, the White House is running this. We have, of course, the Susan Rice unmaskings. And now Ben Rhodes was her deputy. Old Deputy Dog Rhodes. Says he only heard of the dossier after Trump was elected. It was all over the news. Talk about the dossier and stuff was all over the news in the late fall of 2016. 3 months before BuzzFeed released it. So this guy's just a liar. And maybe it's true he was kept out of the loop about a lot of things, but Obama certainly wasn't. I can assure you of that. Obama knew everything that was going on, and it's right there in the Strzok Page text and common sense. Obama knew, of course, about the spies. I'm sure he knew about the FISA warrants. I'm sure he knew about the national security letters, the foreign intel agencies being involved. He's probably the one that asked him to work for him. And so all this is out there. And I guess the question now that's kind of on my mind is everybody's asking a lot of these questions, but at this point, we've not heard Obama come out and deny anything. In fact, I haven't heard him make a single comment. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't. I just haven't heard it about SpyGate. We hear other people make comments about it, but I have not heard Barack Obama comment at all on the allegations being made about his administration spying on the Trump campaign. I've not heard a peep out of him about that. He seems to be keeping a low profile, staying pretty quiet lately. Why do you think that is? Okay, my friends, as I said, I promised a quiz at the end of the video. So, you have a lot of disinformation going on out there. As we slowly see that the narrative is now changing from Trump-Russia collusion to SpyGate. Did the FBI, Obama administration spy on Trump? And now the investigations are beginning. Mueller's done, and now Barr's beginning. All these other things are beginning to happen. It's all changing now, right in front of our eyes. I do think that Barr is probably going to get to the bottom of this. I do hope so. And I think he's going to do it sooner than later, because I don't think he wants it to be happening during the 2020 elections. I think he wants to get this thing out before then. And so there's a lot of disinformation. With the help of my good friend Mike Whitney, Seattle liberal Mike Whitney, I want to just go through a series of questions and a quiz with you, just so, because I know some of you people have just joined me, just started watching TowerGate videos recently, but many of you have been with me since the beginning, March 6th of 2017, when I began covering this story. And we've covered a lot of territory. My timeline takes 3.5, 4 hours to read. So I just want to go through the major key points and make this real simple and a simple pop quiz, like a 10-question quiz, so that we can very easily get a very clear picture of what did and did not happen, excuse me, and where this thing is likely to go. Because there's a lot of disinformation out there. I want to make this really, really simple. Really, really simple. So it's a simple quiz, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the questions. I'll give you time to answer, then I'll give you the correct answer after I ask the question. So good luck to you all. I expect those of you who've been with me for more than a year should get every question right. So let's go ahead and go through this if I can get through hiccuping, coughing, and gagging, including my throat, from all the dust that I inhale at work every day. Okay. Question. Did the FBI spy on the Trump campaign? Yes is the correct answer. Did the FBI place spies in the Trump campaign? Yes is the correct answer. Do we know the names of the spies and how they operated? Yes is the correct answer. Were the spies trying to entrap Trump team members to gather information on Trump? Yes is the correct answer. Did the spies try to entrap Trump campaign team members to justify a wider investigation and more extensive surveillance? Yes is the correct answer. Did the FBI pursue FISA warrants based on false or misleading information? Yes is the correct answer. Did the FBI DOJ exclude exculpatory information to the FISA court in order to get the FISA warrants? Yes is the correct answer. Were spies placed into the Trump campaign based on those illegal FISAs? Yes is the correct answer. Did the FBI and DOJ have probable cause that Trump committed a crime and colluding with the Russians? No is the correct answer. So, was the spying on the Trump campaign illegal? Yes is the correct answer. Congratulations to all of you who got them all correct. So now that we've taken this quiz and that we've established the facts clearly, in no uncertain terms, very, very clear, simple, easy questions with answers that we know, even if Barr didn't investigate a single other thing. Just to what we've learned so far, just what we know so far, we can answer all these questions. And when you answer all these questions, what you have is a coup and a lot of people going to prison. Thank you so much for taking that quiz. Feel free, if you're a YouTube video maker, to edit this video and take that short quiz. It's about a 2-minute, 3-minute quiz. Feel free to edit my video and Facebook it or Twitter it or whatever you want to do with it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. Be good. Bye.